Zach Wilson, once the golden boy of BYU, now walking through the NFL like a ghost in someone else's story. The number 2 overall pick, second only to Trevor Lawrence in 2021. And yet, here we are, 4 seasons later, looking at a quarterback who's bounced from one sideline to another, stripped of the shine he never got to wear for long. There was something in those early games in New York, fleeting, barely visible, like a spark that couldn't catch in the wind. But that spark was real, wasn't it? No one talks about it now. They look at the numbers, 23 touchdowns, 25 interceptions, and they scoff. They call it a bust. That word so final, so heavy. It clings to him like smoke. But is it fair? Is it complete? Or is it just convenient? The Jets didn't just draft Zach Wilson. They threw him into the fire with a leaky offensive line, a carousel of play callers, and expectations that had nothing to do with reality. And when he stumbled, when he hesitated, when his mechanics broke down under pressure, they didn't hold him. They shoved him. They benched him. They humiliated him. Publicly. Over and over. And then, when the offseason came, they traded him for what? A handshake and a future conditional pick? As if he were an old practice jersey that no one wanted to wash. Then came Denver. The quiet year. No drama, no disasters. But no snaps either. A full season in the shadows. A time to breathe, maybe. A time to be forgotten, maybe. And yet somehow, a time to reset. He said it himself. It was a chance to lay down the stress. The constant pressure to be perfect. As if perfection is what the NFL demands from a 21-year-old tossed into a storm without a map. And now he's in Miami. The move barely made noise. It was lost between big signings, contract extensions, and off-season drama. But it happened. Zach Wilson signed with the Miami Dolphins. His 3rd team in 3 years. 3rd uniform. 3rd locker room. 3rd coaching staff. But maybe the first real chance to figure out who he is, without having to apologize for it. He knows what people say, that he's just a backup, that he's behind Tua, locked into the number 2 spot, irrelevant unless disaster strikes. But here's the thing, disaster does strike. Tua hasn't played every game in 4 of his 5 seasons. And last year, 6 games started by a backup. That's not trivia. That's context. That's reality. Wilson may be behind him, but the field isn't as far away as people think. One hit, one misstep, one concussion protocol, and the entire narrative shifts. He's not in Miami to play the same script, not to hold a clipboard and smile on the sideline like a good soldier. He said it himself. He still believes he can start in this league. And what does that tell you? It tells you that somewhere, deep inside, there's still a quarterback who hasn't surrendered, who hasn't given in, who still wakes up thinking he has something to prove. And maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. But that belief, that stubborn belief, that's what separates those who survive from those who fade away. The Dolphins didn't bring him in by accident. McDaniel isn't running a charity. He saw something beyond the stats, beyond the headlines, beyond the awkward press conferences and the benchings. He saw a quarterback who's been humbled, who's been burned, who's still standing, and maybe, just maybe, a quarterback who fits this system in a way no one's ready to admit. This offense, fast, aggressive, built on timing and precision and explosiveness. It's not about arm strength, it's about decisions. It's about rhythm. And when Wilson is in rhythm, when the game slows down, when he isn't trying to play hero ball every down, he can be dangerous. He showed flashes in New York. He had moments where the ball left his hand like a promise. But they were rare, scattered, interrupted by doubt, by panic, by coaching that couldn't get out of its own way. But here, in Miami, he's got Tyreek Hill. He's got Jalen Waddle. He's got a running game that stretches the field and a coach who believes in motion, deception, misdirection. This is not a system that asks a quarterback to carry the world. It asks him to be a part of something bigger, to trust the process, to trust the design. Can Zach do that? Can he trust again after everything? And what happens if he gets a shot? What happens if Tua goes down, and suddenly it's Zach Wilson under center, lights on, cameras rolling, season hanging in the balance? Does he rise? Does he fold? Does he finally show what the Jets never gave him the chance to show? Or does the weight of it all crush him one last time? He's 25. That's the part people forget. 25. Younger than some rookies. He's been in the league for 4 years, and still, he's barely older than the quarterbacks just entering the draft. The experience he's gained, painful, embarrassing, frustrating, is still experience. He knows what it feels like to be the guy. He knows what it feels like to be booed. He knows what it feels like to sit in the cold, wondering if this dream was a mistake. And yet, he's still here. Not every quarterback gets a third shot. Not every quarterback deserves it. But what does deserve even mean in this league? Is it about talent, timing, luck, who you know? Or is it just about surviving long enough to be there when the moment arrives?